Welcome everyone to this week's Abi Live. Today I've got a really great friend of mine, Sheila. She is a dream interpreter. Oh, I can't speak. Interpreter. And this is her gift. She's done this for ages and she's just amazing at it. So we're going to talk about how dreams really serve your business today. So welcome, Sheila. Thank you for being here. And would you love to tell us a little bit about you and who you serve and what you do?
Well, thank you, first of all, Abby, for having me. It's great catching up with you at any time, but it's even better when we're talking about some of our favorite subjects. I'm Sheila Balgobin, and I'm known as the Dream Decipherer. And what I do is what I am. I was born with the ability to interpret dreams, sort of a modern day Joseph. No Technicolor dream coat, though. And and I use that gift to be able to help people to create their best lives and make the best decisions for themselves, whether personally or professionally.
Amazing. So why are dreams so important? Why should we pay attention to them?
Well, I can share an example with you of my own life. My dreams literally saved my life. From 9/11 as it happened. And it also brought an old flame back into my life who became my husband. So I think dreams are pretty important.
So is it just these, like you said, that is a big thing. 9/11 was massive. It was obviously so important. It was very world shaking. And that saved your life because you had, I'm assuming, a vision that something was going to happen and it turned you off a bit. But why should we listen to our dreams in our day-to-day lives?
Well, dreams have both a physiological as well as psychological impact. For example, when I was doing drug and alcohol counseling, my clients didn't dream as long as they were doing their drinking or taking drugs or what have you. But the minute they stopped, they were dreaming constantly, to the point where they looked like they were having psychotic episodes. They'd be cursing, screaming, crying, having this whole relationship, and nobody sees what's going on. But what happens is all that repressed information came flooding up and broke into their waking lives. So they, as far as they were concerned, the person they were cursing out was standing right in front of them. But there's also studies, a sleep study was done at the University of Chicago, and it looked at women who had gone through bad divorces. And there was what control group, which was the women who were happily married, not thinking of divorce. And the other two groups of women were ones who dreamt and ones who did not. The women who were woken up during REM sleep and asked what they were dreaming about, it was usually about their ex or some aspect of their relationship. And those women recovered more quickly and more completely than the women who said that they didn't dream or couldn't remember their dreams. So dreams serve various purposes in our lives, but they are, in a sense, our inner sage, our inner counselor, that can provide important information for us, to whether it be, like I said, for personal or professional reasons. The fact that I work with dreams is actually came about because of dreams, strangely enough. So, you know, it's when we don't dream, which is part of the sleep cycle, but research is actually finding out that dreams in and of themselves have a purpose. And when we don't dream, we wake up irritable, we make poor decisions, our relationships go down the toilet. So, you know, it does have an impact on us, because not only because it's part of the sleep cycle, but because on a psychological level, it helps us to sort things out. You know, many things were invented and created because of dreams. I mean, the novel Frankenstein, the song Yesterday by the Beatles, sewing machines, Google was invented because of dreams. DNA, double helix, Einstein's E equals MC squared. All of those and many other things have been created or developed because of dreams.
Because I always thought that dreams were to process what's already happened, not necessarily to listen to the subconscious, as the examples that you've demonstrated and then to create from them. I've always thought it was a processing
Well, it
standard
is.
for our
I mean,
bodies.
it is, and like I said, dreams have serve various purposes in our lives. I mean, I've so far have identified 5 types of dreams that have different things. You know, the smokestack, for example, if somebody cuts you off on the way to work, your teenagers are giving you grief, your new partner is acting really crazy and you don't know why. And those minor stresses or relatively minor stresses have a tendency to show up in your dream. I remember when I was a stockbroker, dreaming about answering my phone at work, and it was like, you know what, I need to get out of this job.
Yeah.
I need to get out of here when I start dreaming about work. But dreams can have have a compensatory purpose in terms of balancing us out. So if we're out of whack in our outer world, our inner world, to show that there's a dissonance, will be out of whack and really crazy as well. I mean, to give you a funny example, there used to be, and I'm showing my age, I know, there was this, on Saturday Night Live, there used to be this character called the church lady. And this church lady was always shaking her finger at people and telling them, you know, how immoral and how slack they were. But in her dreams, she was having it off with everybody. Okay, so that's what I mean about the compensatory nature of dreams. The more out of whack you are in your daytime, the more out of whack and crazy your dreams will appear. So, you know, as I say, the dreams serve various purposes in our lives. When I was doing counseling work, my clients, when I would tell them, you know, when we met for the first time that I worked with dreams, they would say, oh, you know, I had a dream last night. And the dream would perfectly frame their situation.
Oh,
So
amazing.
that would give me a means, you know, what approach to take or what tact to work on to be able to help them to sort through whatever it is they were was happening in their lives. So as I said, dreams really are quite useful things. It's the wisest and deepest part of ourselves that clocks everything that goes on around us, from the neighbors fighting upstairs and the birds singing outside to that great new job, you know, that, you know, you've been looking for or whatever. So, and time in the dream state doesn't matter. There's no such thing as here or there. It depends on where, if you look at life as circular, depending on which way you're facing, this way may be present, that way may be future, but you're always standing in the present. So dreams can look at the past, but they can also predict the future. Like I said, the dream that I had, you know, that saved my life was more than a year before the event actually happened. And I didn't know. And that's what really scared me, because I couldn't figure out what the dream meant.
Right.
That was scary. It left me shaking, left me, you know, in this total state every night. But this dream kept at me, and that repetitive dreams usually mean that this is really important. You need to look at this. And it was only when I decided to pack up my things and return here to the UK that the dream stopped. Just completely stopped from one day to the next. That was it. And it wasn't until one day I was returning to work from lunch and to a scene of complete pandemonium at the GP surgery where I worked. Like, what the hell is going on? And all I could hear was planes, tower, hit. And that moment, I went blank. My mind just went blank, but I knew what that dream finally meant, because I kept dreaming of shipwrecks. Shipwrecks? What is that? But planes in the early days of aviation were called airships. And so, you know, maybe I wasn't meant to know beforehand. And, you know, if I told somebody about it, they would have thought I was Looney Tunes or, you know, an incipient terrorist and locked me up. So, you know, everything happens for a reason.
And it's so interesting because, like you said, so many solutions come from dreams. We might not necessarily know what they are when we have the dream, but if it keeps coming back, I would definitely look into it myself, and I've shared with you a few dreams that keep coming up, and I'm like, what does this mean? I don't know, but a lot of my solutions, where I am very task-based, we're both very task-based as people. We're very focused in, and I like to use the word blinkered. So we're very like this, and the whole world is going on around us, but we're so determined that we are blinkered. But when I'm dreaming, I don't have that ability to shut off the world because I'm unconscious. So my subconscious or unconscious mind then kicks in and tells me all the things that are going on around me, or tells me all the solutions that I might not necessarily see because I'm too shut off from other opportunities, other solutions, anything like that. So
exactly.
how does that work with the mind and it coming up to resolve problems?
Well, that's one of the qualities of dreams, is that it's a creative and problem solving ability. And it may not, the answer may not come to you exactly in the dream. It may come to you from something you see on TV, or a random stranger says something and you hear it, and it's, you know, it somehow clicks and kind of opens the floodgates for this other information to come in. I remember one colleague of mine, she posed a question in her dream, and the next day her husband answered the question. So you have to, you know, I think it's about becoming aware, being more aware, so that when the answers do come, sometimes they come right away. Sometimes, like my you know, shipwreck dream didn't come to me immediately, and maybe that was from my own protection. Who knows? But
is there a practice that we can put in place to set ourselves up? Because for me, it's just to not try and find the solution as I'm going to sleep, but just posing the question and feel it, and just feeling the question. And then when I wake up, my dreams normally give me some sort of indication of a movement that I need to go in, even if it isn't the full done packaged finished product.
Well, the two tips that I would give whoever's watching this, and for you as well, is two simple things. One is to start taking note of your dreams. You know, keep a little pad or, you know, piece of paper and a pen or pencil by your bedside. You don't have to write War and Peace or the great, you know, the great British novel or anything like that, but bullet points, words. And when you wake up, yes, it will look like a 5-year-old was scrawling on the piece of paper, but those words will help trigger the memory, because 95% of a dream is forgotten in the first 5 minutes of waking up. That's across the board, even for me. So you have to have something to kind of jog your memory. The other thing is a glass of water. And you're thinking, a glass of water? Yes, a glass of water, roughly about an hour or so before bed, because the unconscious is likened to a great ocean. Our emotions are likened to water. So it you know, energetically, it kind of stimulates that process. And there are other things that I teach people on my course that to be able to improve both the coherence between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So the, you know, the left brain doesn't go, what the hell is that? But suspends, you know, suspends disbelief long enough to listen to the image rich right hemisphere of the brain. I mean, the right hemisphere of the brain is the oldest part of the brain, and developed before we had language. So it deals with emotions, it deals with images. I mean, it was more important before we had language. It was more important to know that that saber-toothed cat with the open mouth didn't mean us any good, or those bright red berries that nearly killed us the last time we tried them should be avoided. So it works in pictures. And it's only the newer part of the brain, the neocortex, that is the bean counter. You know, it assesses, it evaluates, it makes judgments. And that's what happens. It judges and says, cheap wine, cheese, dodgy takeaway, and just dismisses it altogether. So getting the two hemispheres to connect more, so that when the dream is floated up, it's not immediately dismissed. And women have an easier time of this than men do, because we have more connections. The
Okay.
callosum, which connects the right and left hemispheres, is much more dense
Right.
than, and it makes sense in that sense, because I mean, as caring for children, we have to be able to not only to tap into our emotional side, but be able to figure out what that crying means. Is it, do they need to be changed? Are they fed? They need to be fed,
Yeah.
or are they just throwing a tantrum? So we need, you know, that extra kind of understanding to be able to
Judging the
interpret what's
emotions.
going on with our kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or our pets.
Yeah. Yes. I've had a great time with my puppy recently, and he's been very needy, so I'm very well practiced in that right now.
Exactly.
So when we are, because I have a practice of how I go to bed in a sense, and I call it a brain dump. I don't know what other people call it, and it's literally whatever comes into my head. I write out on a piece of paper. I go to sleep. As soon as I wake up, I have that piece of paper next to me. Whatever it is, a dream, an idea, anything that I need to vent goes back on that piece of paper. I then bring it to my desk and pull out whatever pieces of information come out of it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and that's a great technique, by the way. I mean, when we start, what an interesting thing starts to happen when we start paying attention to our dreams. I mean, I've been recording dreams. I have journals stretching back years, which even now I pull out every now and then and find something. Oh, okay. You know, that's an idea that I hadn't thought of, and, you know, can carry forward. But when we start to pay attention to our dreams, interestingly enough, the unconscious mind helps us to retain more of the dream, to understand the dreams better. It's as if they say, okay, I see you're taking this seriously, so let me help you. So what happens is, in the case of a repetitive dream of some kind, where this same information keeps coming back to you, which is saying, hey, you need to take a look at this. What happens is, if you get the information, the dream goes away. You won't have it again. But if you haven't quite, you know, twigged onto exactly what the full meaning of the dream, it'll come back, but it'll have switched some details around. It's like, okay, you got that bit. Let me show you the rest of it, so you can, you know, pick up on the what else is in here.
So should we be looking back at our dreams, our journals, or notes, whatever it is, or is it always a present, a new moment? That's how I'm trying to describe it.
Well,
is it going to serve us by looking back and trying to piece things together, or is it just, okay, body, what have you got for me right now?
Well, I mean, it's both and, rather than either or. There are things that perhaps because you weren't really paying attention to your dreams before, you'll gain new insight when you go back and look at things. I mean, there's poetry that I had written at ages that will go in, you know, when I update my book of poetry, that will go in there now. So yes, we're always in the present moment, but remember, like I said, if you're standing in a circle, you're in the middle. Depending on which way you're looking at the circle, you could be in past or you can be in future. But we're always dreaming from the standpoint of where we are right now, but you can look in either direction. So yeah, I mean, it may give better understanding to things that have happened in our past, as well as the predictive nature or problem solving nature that will help us with going forward. So it's not a hard and fast rule. Certainly, if it's looking at things in the present, but there may be things in the past that influence what you're, you know, experiencing in the present. So it's not a bad thing sometimes to look back, as long as it doesn't hold you back.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And how would someone, even if it isn't a repetitive dream, if they wanted to start analyzing their dreams just by themselves, maybe that's the first step for them before they seek advice from an expert like you, then what would be maybe 3 to 5 steps that they could do, or practices that they could really start understanding what they're dreaming about? Or are there solutions in there that they don't realize the solutions yet?
Well, I, I mean, I won't give all of my tips away, but one thing that I will say is that you need to break the dream down. I mean, even a so-called short dream is contains a lot of information. It's as if the unconscious works in almost like shorthand. So it packs a lot of information into what seems to be a very short dream. But what I would say is each element of the dream needs to be looked at in and of itself. So I'll give you an example from one of my own dreams. I dreamt some years ago about, my birthday's around Christmas time, just after Christmas. And I was dreaming about a Christmas tree with loads of gifts underneath. And I even smelled the pine from the resin from the pine tree. I mean, it was an incredible experience. But there were presents under the tree with my brother and sister, who are both in spirit now. They're not, so they're not physically present under the tree with their names on it. But there was one huge box that was unmarked. And I didn't get a chance to open the box, but I assumed it was mine. And I eventually figured out that the gift that was unmarked was me. And I needed to share my gift, open it and share it. But what I did was I took each element of the dream. I mean, the tree and what that might represent, the gifts and what that represented. And the people in our dreams, this is something really important for people to remember. The people in our dreams are not necessarily themselves. They, it may come dressed up looking like your partner or, your parents or whoever, but they're not necessarily themselves. It could be, but generally they're representing some aspect of us. So, you have to look at the people who appear, whether they physically appear or you think about them in the dream. What do they represent for you? What feelings, what thoughts, what emotions are attached to them? And by taking these different elements and in and of themselves, what starts to happen is that they all start to converge and into creating the story to give you the sense of what's going on. I mean, that's one of the things that I teach people how to do, but that's something that to be able to break the dream down, as I call it, finding the gold in the gobbledygook, because, you get these crazy images. What is that? But if you start to break things down into these little discrete pieces, and then kind of, it's like a hub and spoke. I guess that's the best way to put it. So you have one idea here, and all of the things that you associate with that thing, you put there. The next item, whatever the part is a person, perhaps, you put that, another little wheel, and all of the things that come up for you with regard to that. And you do that for each thing, so that what eventually starts to happen, you start to see the connections between them. And like I said, it starts to converge into the story and give you a sense of what it is that the dream is trying to tell you. So that's, I think, the most important thing is to not to see it in its entirety, but also be able to get very specific into the discrete parts of the dream. To be able to pick it apart enough, and the dreams speak in metaphors. It's as if.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And you have to remember that it speaks in images, it speaks in metaphors, so that you don't necessarily have to take it literally. I mean, I dreamt when I was doing my psychotherapy training, I was dreaming about black cats and people breaking into my home trying to steal stuff. What I realized is that the black cats, and I happen to love cats, and I had several black cats, but in this context, the cats were my tutors on my course. One in particular who was very catty, in the way she behaved. Um, and, and the thieves were people who were, you know, like picking my brain and trying to steal stuff and you know, take away what felt like they were taking away an essential part of who I was in order to kind of mold me into something else. So, but that's exactly what I mean. You see, it wasn't, you know, a direct dream saying, oh, you know, your
Cats.
tutors are a pain in the butt. And, you know, and, you know, that woman really gets on my last nerve. But, you know, through being able to pick it apart and seeing the connections and the plays on words that, you know, the unconscious is very clever.
Yeah.
It will use slips of the tongue, plays on words, all kinds of little stratagems to get you to stop for a moment and, what's that about?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not right. So pay attention. So that is so interesting. And I know that you serve people like this all the time. And if anyone would love to be a part of Sheila's world, then I know she's got an amazing free gift that will really support you with analyzing your dreams. If you think you've got the next Google idea in your dream and you just don't know what it is, then I'm sure Sheila can help you. So would you love to tell us a little bit about your free gift that I know you've got for everyone?
Yes, I offer a free mini consultation where someone can present a dream or nightmare. And that funny thing about nightmares, people say after we go through them, people say, is that it? Is that all it was? It's really funny, invariably. But, you know, they can contact me at www.meetingwithsheila, all one word, .com, and book this free consultation. And what I will do is it's not a full consultation, but what I will do is give tips and ask certain questions to be able to orient the person so that they can go away from the dream and work with it and be able to tease out more of the information in it. And of course, I'm available if they really get stuck. But I find that just prompting them with certain questions, they already like, oh, I got it. I understand now. So, you know, usually by the end of the call, they've got a pretty good handle on what it is that the dream is trying to say.
That's so amazing. And how can everyone contact you and reach you?
Well, my website is my name, Sheila Balgobin, all one word, .com. As I said, if they want to speak with me, that's www.meetingwithsheila.com. And you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me just about everywhere if you look for the Dream Decipherer.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming today, Sheila. It's been amazing and always lovely to see you.
Yes, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I'm so glad we were able to get this together. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.